today's topic, what goes into a trading plan? So the importance of a trading plan is to keep your road straight, to keep your trail, clean of debris, I would say. And so we'll go into my trading plan that was updated in February. And then really this is going to be a time where you can look at this and it doesn't necessarily need to be exactly formatted like mine. Nor do you need to have the same biases or same approach. The general idea is to get the outline and have some type of foundation, right? So without further ado, this is mine from February of 2020. So this is only about, 2 months old? And we're going to go through the questions, not so much the answers here. A lot has changed since February. So do I need to update it? You'll start to see that the inputs that I have after the question marks can be relatively stationary. It's more about discipline, trade size, positioning, things like that. So we'll get into this, and if you have any questions or comments, just let me know. We won't take up the whole entire time of the 30 minutes on the trading plan, but just to give you an idea, this should give you a pretty good foundation. So why am I trading? Right, to gain financial independence, constantly engage and learn about market psychology, to have a better understanding of how my financial markets work. I could have a million different whys, right? So yeah, and I will throw out this template. So the why is just, hey, identify why you want to do this. Okay, here's one that I could just add right now, right? And it's, I guess it goes without saying, but I could definitely type in under that third mark is, I didn't want to do anything that was boring. I've had multiple positions, even just straight out of college, just having super boring, didn't really, wasn't fully committed. What I found was not only can I take complete control of my financial independence and future, but I don't have to be bored. And I think trading options is the least boring thing. I grew up wanting to be a doctor. I don't have the, I'm way too artistic or whatever, creative mind to be a doctor. But I thought it'd be a very, I think that'd be cool, But so why? And I could come up with a million. What is my approach? Well, usually whenever I'm not doing micro futures, which is a big theme for me into August, I'd like to do delta 70s or at the money put credit spreads, right? Complemented by daily squeezes, 195 and 4 hours. Now, I'm not reading that. I'm just kind of giving you the general idea now. But if you want to just type this out and make your own document as we go, that would be awesome. So why am I trading? Answer those questions. What is my approach, right? And I could come in here and have something and edit this out and say, well, what is my approach to micro futures? I've already done that. I already know my approach. And that's something that I'm working on for the August class. So this is just for simply options. RRTN, because I've got a class teaching how to trade micro futures coming up then. So here are some goals. How far apart are the spreads? I think if you're asking me, Lee, that's a great question, right? Because the spreads have changed, right? So what are my goals? Weekly, monthly, annually, long term. And you can see that here. So as long as you're getting these questions, and I'm more than happy to help you individually with setting this up as far as answering your own questions. Here's some objectives, right? To have little to zero emotion, swing trading, equity options. Now, you can still do this. The market is grinding higher. We had the big scare already. That doesn't mean that the market is falling apart. If anything, it is proven to be rather resilient right now. I mean, look at SPX 2874. We started out with a gap up this morning. So, it's just taking all the shorts for all their money right now. And it's important to have some bearish hedges on. So objectives, make it easy as possible, relaxed state of mind, trade in equities. What markets will I trade? Equity options that have a squeeze on multiple time frames, and for longer trades, a weekly squeeze. Now that has changed, right? Remember, I said some of this stuff has changed because, if you're looking at the weekly time frame right now, that's going to leave you in the dust, right? Because there's so much volatility and there's so much movement. And like Lee said, what are the spread distances, right? The spreads on some of these underlyings are ridiculous, right? So, whenever liquidity is at a premium and you're trying to get a low bid for Tesla, right? And you don't get it, you're not filled. That's one thing. But then whenever you are filled, okay, and it's going against you, it's that much harder to get out. All right. So far we have, why am I trading? What is my approach? What are my goals? And feel free to take a snapshot of this too. What are my objectives? What markets will I trade? Okay. What time frames will I trade? A lot of the times in the option room, you'll see me go to the 195, mainly the daily. But these are all that I look at. And it depends on the setup, right? And it depends on if I'm looking at semiconductors or if I'm looking at the FANGs. And I'm going to tell you something real quick. So a lot of trading can be compared to diet. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's so true. And I'm seeing Lee B's comment right now. A lot of a good diet is what you don't put into your body, right? And I think John said this a couple weeks ago. A lot of trading is what not to do. Okay. In other words, it's easy to have these setups and continue your plan and do all the things that kind of make up that clean journey, that clean road. And then what you're doing is, if you're, I don't know what it may be for you, but for me in the past, it was really, really wishy-washy SPX trades. That is what I don't do, because the lesson was hard, the lesson was rough. And I don't want to repeat the lesson anymore, right? So no more of that. Okay, what time frames? What setups will I trade? High short interest underlyings. Remember, this was in February, where Beyond Meat, Tesla, I can't even think of all the ones that had high short interest. Momentum. Some of these were at the money put credit spreads, Delta 70 calls, high short interest, directional option strategies, directional earnings, butterflies. Okay. So what setups? Okay. How will I find new symbols and markets to trade? So, whenever you've been doing this a while, you kind of already know what's out there. But for those that are new, I have 10 underlyings that I stick to as much as possible, okay? Outside of micro futures. So that's AMD, that's Netflix, that's some of these honey badgers, which actually changes a little bit, and that's not in my trading plan just because it's been so recent. In other words, like, I don't have a list of underlyings that is going to stay stationary, that looks like Beyond Meat, that looks like, any of the, even Tesla. It's so up and down, even though today it's just blowing through the ceiling. But a lot of these are what we call honey badger stocks, where they don't care what the rest of the market is doing. In fact, those are some of your best bullish plays in a bear market. Okay. So how will I find these? Well, there's multiple ways. You can have a top 10 scanner through Thinkorswim. You could have a scanner for high short interest. You could have our scanner product and go through that. Okay. Yeah, so Lee, the squeeze right here, it says, what markets will I trade? And then right here at the bottom, it says equity options that have a squeeze on multiple time frames. It's okay. I know it was up there in the window. Maybe you didn't see it. That's okay. But yeah, I'm mainly looking for the squeeze. And exactly like Fib Queen says, no trigger, no trade. Exactly. So I am mainly looking for underlyings with a squeeze. Okay. Especially whenever we're directional, right? Now, whenever we're doing something different like bearish hedges or butterflies, that's completely different. Okay. So I look at the top 10 holdings inside primary spiders. Okay, and this is mainly updated. It can be updated monthly or quarterly. It's very rarely changed significantly. Okay, and then of course I look at what other moderators are looking at. I'll check out CML Viz. I'll see what's moving as far as good volume, good momentum, and once again multiple squeezes. Yep, that's another one. Lee, don't make spontaneous trades. Exactly. So I know that this topic is, very much not having to do with anything of the markets right now, or today, right now, but the entire topic is, hey, let's figure out what goes into a trading plan so you can make your own. And then you can go, okay, well, I've got a trading plan. I've seen Jack's. You can see, I think Henry has his. Here's entry rules. Okay, so we've gone through how do I find symbols in markets? Okay. What are entry rules? These are very basic. So in a squeeze daily, 8 and 21 EMA zone. So buying back at the 21 on the daily if you get the shot. 8 if you're like, okay, well, I'm going to scale into this, right? And then for these smaller time frames, the 15-minute, the hourly chart and a squeeze, that's usually what I'm looking at, especially right now. And that should change if we continue to grind higher. If we make a continued V bottom, I will be very, very surprised, but crazier things have happened. So look at this. I mean, we are not that far off. We've made a 50% retracement now. And it's just the market is not, it's not rolling over. This big scary move was right here. Now, do I think we roll over at least in some regard next week? It seems like it, right? We're coming right back in to 28.74. We're exceeding that. The 618's at 29.25 though. So, all right, let's go back to the trading plan. So this is an important one right here. Where do I place my stops? Well, I don't use hard stops unless it's in futures, micro futures. I'm risking the debit paid. I am right now, at least, the at the money put credit spreads. If they don't go in my favor at least within a day or two, then I'll probably just cut it off short. You can always get out of a trade. You can always get back into a trade, but you can't always get the complete loss back if you sit there and cross your fingers and pray to the trading gods. Let's keep scrolling down. What are my exits and where should I be taking profits? This is probably one of the most important categories in a trading plan for me, because there have been times where I wanted 100% profit, 400, and it just wasn't the right fit. And then doing this long enough, I've considered, hey, maybe I'm a little greedy and maybe I need to pump the brakes, right? And so, because it's easy to make money in options, it's hard to hold on to it. Now, that hard to hold on to it part can definitely change if you have profit targets. So you can see mine right here. You can see that this is pretty conservative, right? Whenever you're considering directional options with the Delta 70s, one would think, okay, well, wait a second, you would want at least a 2x on your money, right? So another question to throw on your trading plan: what are my exit signals and where should I be taking profits? Who can I call back to take a trade? That's funny, Lee. Yeah, just have like a list of brokerage. All right, so as we go through this, how will I manage my risk? This is also important. This is just a concept that should be digested right now in real time. 100% of risk is calculated prior to entering the position. So I'm paying the debit, right? Or if I have a put credit spread, my max loss is well defined against my max profit. I will always have a profit target specific to the strategy implemented. So in other words, if I have a bullish butterfly on for AMD, okay, and it goes in my favor, I don't need to sit around and wait for 400% profit if I have my 100% return. Okay. Okay, another super, I feel like the latter part of the trading plan is probably way more important. So what is my pre-market routine? Okay, this is on Mondays, I'm up at probably 5:15, 5:30. No, I'm not saying that you have to be up, but that's just what I do. I don't like to sleep too much. So I look at extended hours, I check futures, I run a scan for 100 different squeezes, and I've got that. Run a scan for high short interest. And generally, I mean, doing this long enough, you can kind of tell what's going to be on and what's going to be off, but it's just good to see it. And then one of my favorite scans is the top 10% of 52-week highs. Now, that's actually becoming a little bit more relevant, seeing that we're slowly grinding. Okay. What is my post-market routine? And I wish I had a snapshot of basically my trading binder, my notepad. It's just basically a legal pad with each page is an entire week. And so if you imagine a legal page, right, the pretty long yellow pages, I fit all my thoughts and everything, all my notes. Of course, I don't know what it is, but I'm really good at shorthand. So I can fit all my stuff on one page, and each page is a week of notes, things that I was looking at, micro futures positions, or any type of bearish hedges that I already have on place that I'm updating or just monitoring. So a lot of my post-market routine is getting up away from the desk, drinking some water, kind of relaxing, and just doing an overview, right? And this is important too. Theta or delta basis, like, am I super, super directional? If I have a longer duration of, if I have expiring options a month out, how is my theta being measured, right? Or is my theta increasing or decreasing? Okay. And then, of course, I mentioned all these a little bit earlier, but what tools will I use for my trading businesses, right? So simpler trading, scanners, squeeze scans, CML Viz is a good one. IBD 2020, Trader's Almanac. Okay. So what is my process for reviewing, documenting trades? I'll usually take a snapshot, or like I said, I just journal it. I'm all about the handwritten journal. I always have been. I have my trading journal from like my first trading journal. It's like probably 150 pages. And at some point I got really OCD and I didn't want a new trading journal. So I was taping 3x5 index cards in my first trading journal. So, because I thought my first trading journal was good luck. All right, so there we go. If you're copying down this template, just know what tools, what is my process. All right, so how do I continue my education? And you can read those bullet points right now. One of my favorite macro analysts or billionaires is Kyle Bass out of Dallas. Jay, are you working all day on some sort of trading prep or monitoring of trades? Late girl, do you mean just every day, or do you mean specifically for another time frame? I love writing things out. I love a good Word document, don't get me wrong, but I do so much already on the computer that it's actually really nice for me to just grab my handy pen and just have my notes. Yeah, Late Girl, it's a combination of both. So Late Girl asks, are you working all day on some sort of trading prep or monitoring of trades? So right now, specifically, I am continuing to just knock away a fantastic micro futures class for August. A lot of interest in that. And then also, as far as monitoring things, I'm basically going back and forth with all the other moderators because we tend to kind of look at the same things. Sam and I do a lot of talking back and forth about what we're looking at, what our scanners are saying. So there's a lot of kind of teamwork, I guess you could say. Yeah. Hey, Scotty B, I'll go ahead and scroll up and scroll down for you and give you, I thought I have, let me see here. Let me see if I can pull up. Yeah, Scotty B, before it's over, I will, I'll scroll up and scroll down for you. All right, so trading commandments, and this is something that I actually got, I piggybacked off of Henry's trading plan. He's got two great categories in his trading plan. One is, looking at reasons to allow yourself to go flat, right? Meeting all-time highs, some type of drastic news-driven event, and mainly I look at Christmas 2018 and coronavirus 2020. There's been a lot of good reasons to be flat into the weekend. Trading commandments, this is a huge one, and I like this third one right here. So this isn't for me specifically because I'm not divorced, but if you're having relationship issues, if you're post-divorce, trading, I've talked to a few people and it's not one for me to advise, but also it's like, you've got some things to work through, and that's going to eventually, seep through your trading if you haven't confronted that. Now, have I gone through a relationship issue during trading? Yes, I have. Was I trading during it? No, I wasn't. Why? Because I knew that it would affect me. So I took a break, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Now, I should be specific here. Don't trade SPX. It's just not worth it, Jack. This is mainly for intraday SPX. This was probably back in February here. Yeah, exactly. Guess it depends on whether the spouse is going to get everything or not. That's funny. And there's a lot of these trading commandments here, and these are super important to know and have written down so you can look back and kind of look at yourself in the mirror, right? So here's a good one. Pride comes before the fall. No high fives. In other words, you think you got it all figured out and you start celebrating, and then you put on that one trade. That one that's over position, that's one that says, hey, I know it all, And then, of course, some of these in bold are super important as well. Always go flat before taking any kind of vacation, and take a vacation. Y'all, a lot of this is directly kind of an extension from Henry's trading plan. He has one of the best ones I've ever seen. And I think the commandments tend to take some time, but this is all about getting to know yourself. So if you don't know your dirty little habits, and you don't see a green P&L, this is where this comes into play. So know thyself, right? Okay, let's scroll up. So that's pretty much it, y'all. I mean, I've taken up the entire time. If you have questions about this, you can email me. My email's right here. And let me make sure I didn't miss any questions or comments. Got any commandments if you've gotten gun shy for some reason coming off a bad week? Market is done at 180. Yeah, Sherwin, I do. The thing is you got to ask yourself the question is, why are you gun shy now? Was it because you were over positioned? And you don't have to answer that, but just, usually whenever I see something like that, where it's like, hey, I'm a little gun shy now, I had a bad week. It's mainly, I can just take a good guess that maybe you were over positioned. And that's okay. Like I said, this is a journey. And so you've got to learn these things about you. Okay. Yeah. Scotty B, Activision is one of my favorite bullish setups right now. So yeah, Delta 50, you're like, hey, there's some specific details that I've not explicitly declared in my trading plan. It's changed a little bit. A lot of this is just the basics to get things kind of rolling into a new market. Trading plan before this in 2019 looked pretty different. So if it does seem a little bit maybe general compared to what we're seeing in the markets right now, I completely get it. But is the most important parts are what's my routine? How am I going to manage risk? What's my post-market routine? What are my entry rules? What symbols do I know that I'm trading? What is my setup? And I don't like to trade anything more further out than 2 weeks. Now, with that said, what I'm thinking about is actually going in here and looking at Activision. And even though I would pick these June expirations, I would still plan on having, what is my trading plan? 100% profit on the position. Let's go right back down. So in other words, I would just buy these Delta 70 calls into June. Okay. Look, profit should also be considered on a monetary basis, 80 to 100% return on any directional option. That applies to the Activision June calls. Okay. And this naked option, initial credit, that should probably, I could edit that and say, hey, 50% on put credit spreads or 100% on put credit spreads. How would I feel about put credit spread on Activision, Scotty B? But Lee, in general, even though I would choose a later dated expiration, I generally don't want to be holding on to these Delta 70 calls for more than a week or two. It just kind of depends. But right now, it's got a nice bullish setup. There's some open interest in the out of the money calls that's interesting. The put side open interest is, it's there. I mean, you got some bearish open positions right here, but the chart just looks fantastic. It's one of my favorite setups right now. I hope that helps with your process, right? And remember, a lot of trading is what you don't do, because the things that you'll do that you shouldn't do are way more hurtful.
Without simpler trading, I could not have financial independence.
This is one of the best investments I ever made in my life.
It's helping me find consistency.
It's one of the things that won me over.